Okay, well, I've actually turned the microphone on. I thought it was the settings messing up, but it was not. No, it was me having turned the mic off somehow, possibly when I moved it. Anyway, okay. So that when, yeah, I just had a rather derpy incident myself where I know what's happened. I've moved the microphone and I've accidentally turned it off. Yeah, and well, I have finally stopped bleeding from the cut I had earlier when I was shaving. Tried to shave this bit after my haircut, as you can see, and it's like, new razor blade. Lovely. Right, so it's been one of those days. Good and bad in equal measure. Very, very busy, but in a good way. Right, okay, so it is, I do warn people, warm here today, but once again, I have not had the nausea, which is good, but I have been having a mild heat exhaustion, but no nausea, which is good, Heat exhaustion I can cope with. It's not fun, but I can cope with it. It's the nausea that's when it's like, ugh. It's like, I'm not going into too many details, but it's basically it's like something's in my stomach and just going, not fun. Right, okay, so usual preamble for those who are new to the stream, or if you're watching this on the VOD later. There is no audio or video from what we're going to be watching tonight. One of the few ways I found we can actually get around the whole watch party copyright shenanigans, which freaking love the whole watch party, but and I'm now going to be, I'm not going to swear at the person who just put in chat that they have a 17 degrees Celsius temperature right now and is very comfortable, because it is in the mid-20s. Yeah, but then again, I am indoors, I do have the computer on, I do have the curtains closed, and I am in London. So all those things add up. All those things add up. I will just think the swear word very, very loudly. There we go, I'm done. It's out. It's done. It's out of my system. Right. So, the rest of the preamble, because I got distracted, is you'll notice that just about sort of there is the sync timer, and this gives me an excuse to test it. Basically, if we get to a point, where you need to like, take a break or something, but I'm still watching, you can know exactly what point we're at, and you can resync up or whatever it is. It's basically just sort of, again, just so you can play, pause, whatever, and all kind of. Excuse me, it should all match up. I'm going to stop that right now. Right, okay, so that's all the usual nonsense out of the way. Right, okay. Tonight's film. 5C above a typical Scottish summer day. That's the thing, we've been having some really good weather here, in terms of, summer has definitely kicked in for us. Now, it's the middle of August, but it's finally kicked in nicely, but it's temperature-wise, it's actually not too bad. It is warm, but it's in that sort of, I am not going to die or, put me in a fridge all day, otherwise I'm going to overheat warm. It's tolerable. What's made it uncomfortable for me is because I've had to be doing some work inside, and also, again, living in London always adds a sort of a few degrees to the ambient background temperature. But, like I say, also, me going out as well, having to get my hair cut and everything, that was that felt so good, though, because, if you watch like streams from the last few days, my hair was getting really messy, to the point where I would wake up and I look like a freaking been electrocuted. So I'm like, yeah, no, I need to get this done. And as soon as the guy, sort of finished off doing it, and I could just feel the temperature of my head dropping, it's just like, oh, that feels good. And, so, unfortunately, I would love to be able to shout out my local barbers. Unfortunately, their name is also the name of the place where I live, and it's very distinctive. So I'm not going to mention it. I'm just going to say my local barbers. Cracking job, lads. Always a pleasure to go there. Right. So yes, tonight's film. Tonight's film is Arrival, and this is based on a short story which came from a compilation of short stories, which were, and I've got the book that it came from, that it was based on. It's not exactly the same as the book version, because obviously, when you're trying to tell a certain story in one medium, certain concepts and things don't always translate over from the book and into the film. I honestly think that the film is superior to the book. Not because the book is bad in any way, shape, or form, but just because of the way the way they describe themselves. It's so much easier to say, "Oh, look, this is what the aliens look like." I mean, it's no secret there's aliens in this, and excuse me, I was going to cough then. It's very difficult to sort of describe how they act and talk in the book, but when you see it on the film, it's like, oh, that's interesting, sort of thing. And again, it actually has a pretty good cast in it as well. It's I mean, obviously there's Amy Adams, and I keep wanting to call him Jeremy Renner, but that's not his name. No, it's not his name. Oh, it is his name. It is Jeremy Renner. Sorry, I do apologise. Renner spelled with a different way though. That's my brain was going weird. And so yeah, Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, Forrest Whitaker, and Michael Stuhlbarg, who's got a name that I don't necessarily recognise off the top of my head, but it does seem familiar. Now, this is also as well, and I completely forgot about this until I was like looking at the whole thing about it today. This is also a film done by Denis Villeneuve, who you may have seen recently has made the Dune films and directed them and other bits and pieces. And his films are very... no, it's not quite what I want to use because that sounds disparaging. I want to throw a good word. Very... Not dramatic, but there's a certain... Grandiose, that's the word I was looking for. Like, things don't... He doesn't do things by halves in this film, and it is done really freaking well. I mean, I'm not going to obviously spoil the plot of the film, but there is something I would like to talk about, but I can't do it now. I'm going to have to do it after the film, because if I talk about it now, it will spoil the film. So if I remember, and I'm not wanting to melt, I will mention it probably briefly at the end of the film. But yes, this is. I mean, the tags here for this are action. I wouldn't necessarily call it action, but action has a very broad term in the genre. Science fiction, oh, definitely. This is 100% science fiction. And it also has the tag smart. This is a film where, when this film clicks for people, and I can remember watching it as well, just going like, because I think I saw this at the cinema. Won't lie, a little bit of a crush on Amy Adams. That wasn't the reason why I was in it. It's just because I went to see it and I'm like, oh, she's in this as well. Very nice. But yeah, this is definitely a film when it clicks. Yeah, I think they call it action because action is a very broad term. Yeah. Oh, this is such a very... This is cinematic. That's the term I was looking for to describe earlier Denis Villeneuve's films. His films are extremely cinematic. Like don't be wrong, they are good on like DVD, Blu-ray, download and things like that. But seeing him in the cinema is just like, his films are designed to be watched in the cinema. Look at Dune, it was just like sweeping vistas, the whole sandworm stuff. Excuse me, was just whole. Ooh, and this film definitely has that vibe to it. Very cinematic, very. But okay, so I'm just going to read a little blurb that comes out at the beginning of it. Again, there's no real spoilers. This will be in the trailer, so my personal thing is like, if it's in the trailer or the introduction to the film, I do not consider it to be a spoiler. When mysterious spacecraft, see, aliens, touch down across the globe, an elite team led by expert linguist Louise Banks, Amy Adams, are brought together to investigate. So yeah, this is a film that will... Yeah, there is... How can I put it? The book that this came in had like several short stories, and they were all about things that when you first read it, you're thinking, oh, that's an interesting concept, but then you're like, oh, hang on. Ooh. And there was a few in there that were really interesting, like a retelling of the Tower of Babel, and which I personally, out of all the short stories in that book, I that was my personal favourite. It was very odd, but because I didn't twig it was like set in an alternate Earth sort of thing, but it was basically, oh, oh, sort of thing. Once it all clicked, it was one of those kind of books, short stories, and there was quite a few others, but this was one that was picked to be made into a film. And you know what? I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna say anything more because I am getting dangerously close to spoiler territory. So what we often do is I do a 5 second lead in, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, press go, and then I will start the film on my end and the timer. This is one of those sort of films where, um, because it's a reasonably, recent film. I say reasonably, it came out in 2016, so but because it's a reasonably recent film, you may not need to have the subtitles on. Uh, but if you do, just be warned. There's a small chance that things may be spoiled just before they happen. Like oh, there's a mysterious monster. This is not going to happen in this film, but for argument's sake, it's like, oh, there's a mysterious creature coming up the hallway. Who is it? And then it comes up with Mecha Godzilla or something like that, and you're like, ah, they've actually, yeah, they've spoiled who the guest monster was in this film. Although speaking of Godzilla, I do appreciate that in that film they changed the subtitles once Ghidorah got given their name. Before it was just like, like Monster Zero or something like that, and then once that Ghidorah got the name, they changed the subtitles names to the appropriate one, and I freaking applaud them for doing that because it did not spoil things, but if you had the subtitles on. But unfortunately, sometimes they don't really realise that kind of thing. It happens. But anyway, so let me just have a quick drink first because I am parched and I need to keep myself hydrated, and you do too. Yeah, King of the Monsters was a great film. I've also been seeing a lot of um, what's it? Talk about the what's it? Is it Shin Godzilla? That's supposed to be pretty decent. That's like more like a realistic type one sort of thing. But yes, we like our monster movies on this channel. Well, yes, okay. So let me just make sure everything's all set up properly. All right. I haven't had a chance to watch Alien Earth yet, but it is on my to-do list. Okay, so 5 second lead in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Violence, foul language. I'm of course drinking more cranberry juice. Good for my kidneys. Ah yes, where films have like 20 different logos before the actual film itself starts. So 2 hours later, oh, film's done. 21 laps entertainment. Hmm. Yeah, this is. You see what I mean by saying this is a Denis Villeneuve film. It is very cinematic. Oh, cute baby. I know why they do it. Like the whole thing in like films when it's like newborns that are like not newborns. But I know there's a very important reason why they do that. Because you can't have a newborn in front of a camera. So I think it's like what 6 months or something is the. So that's why in Hollywood all newborns look very very big. Yeah, one of the few films that got me teary eyed in the first 5 minutes. The other being Up. Honestly, there's one like ridiculous number of awards, and you'll see why. Like seriously, Amy Adams is just freaking phenomenal in this role. Yeah, just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. God, that yeah. Yeah, there's a reason why everyone's not here at your lecture, and everyone's get. Yeah, she's not stupid. It's like half the class is missing. Two of my students has got a message within like 20 seconds of each other, and she sounds terrified. I do like a good sci-fi film that gets the whole neurons firing. Like, this is one of them. Christ, I can't. A freaking siren. And honestly, I think that the way people handle this event is really realistic. Like, it's like you think everyone would just go into a complete panic, but they don't. I mean, some do, but most people are just, whoa. I like to think I would be in the second camp, but you don't know until it happens. That's when when it's an event completely outside your frame of reference, you have no idea how you're going to react until it happens. Oh, when you see this thing, how the flip can you even consider this come from Earth? Though that's a very good question. Yeah, again, as I say, this is definitely a film that if you see a second time, you can pick up on things before they happen. Obviously, now, sometimes it ruins a film, or this is one of the few films where I think it actually enhances it. Yeah, send one that's a 100% fail possibility, especially against Earthers. Exactly. Plus the whole logic as well. Let's say you can recognise that Earth is populated with a intelligent species. You don't know about the culture. You just know that they're sending out signals and they are reasonably competent. Where would you think that the Earth's capital would be? You don't know. So you send them to all various places around whatever your criteria are based on, like maybe population, maybe size of the cities and things like that. So you can imagine things like, say, like New York, London, Tokyo, things like that would be, yeah, 1,500 feet tall, and they think they came from Earth. Yeah, I know there's a logic to it. We just don't know what that logic is. Yeah, I know if that was me, I would not be able to sleep. I would be like, click, 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 click through all the channels, or now like on the interwebs. See, some people are writing. It's humans being humans, basically. Look at the size of that thing. There's no way you could even think that comes from Earth. And of course, yeah, there'd be protests. There would be, you know, some panicking people, other people taking it as a sign as oh, I can put it. A religious event would be the best way to describe it. Yeah, that's actually a good point. I mean, I was at work at the time when it happened, and you know, one of the guys I was working with was on his lunch break and just went, "Dude, you got to turn on the TV." It's like, why? They've just crashed a plane into the twin towers. I'm like, have you been huffing pain? It's like, no, I'm serious. Mm. It's like somebody else made a good. It wasn't in relation to this film. This was like before Arrival. Somebody made a good point about if aliens did decide to arrive on Earth, okay, and let's say they did send one ship or a couple of ships, where would they go? Okay, where would they go? Would you go to the most populated place? Would you go to the largest city? Would you go for like a quiet area so not to bother the locals? Where would you land? Oh damn! That was like, all right, fair play. She's got me on that one. Yeah, as translators go, she is like top level clearance. Listen, in the background. Oh, hearing that in the cinema was just like, oh. there is something about this is whilst this film is not 100% scientifically accurate, the way they approach linguistics in this pretty much is. Like the logic they use and things like that is like so well done. Yeah. Yeah, this is like, for a linguist, it's like you have mm, or one sentence and B for the rivalry going on, professional, butting heads type thing. Like the bit in Stargate when one of the translators calls it a star door, a space door, and it's like, no, mate, it's a Stargate. Yeah. In fact, he's come back and been like, yeah, that dude doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Oh, look, Hawkeye. I know it's not Hawkeye, but come on. We all do the same thing when we see someone we recognise from one film or show in another. Yeah, that's it. The way they handle linguistics in this film is accurate. Not 100% accurate, but it is close. Like, yeah, you need to put your headphones on because you can't hear otherwise. Notice that. Like how it got muffled when she put her headphones on. So you have the linguist, and you have the viz. Yep. Yeah, the scientist and the linguist. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want just one of the sciences there. You want all of them as much as possible. The look on Forrest Whitaker's character's face there was like, I was hoping for this, and I'm glad. Like he wanted this to happen because it's like, okay, they're not fighting, but they're already mentally sparring off each other, which is a good sign. Which means they're probably going to get along. But you don't want two people who have in complete opposite fields. Question. Oh, yes, good question. Good question. I'm not going to answer that one, even though I technically know the answer. That's a very good question. Yeah, look at that. There's no way you could mistake that for something that came from Earth. And seeing that in the cinema was just... Yeah, those paradox questions are always good, but some of the actually, again, this might be one of those sort of, like royal lectures that they do from the BBC every Christmas. Is a paradox can be resolved when you have the right information. So it's not saying paradoxes can't happen. It's like, if the chicken and the egg situation, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, simple. It was the egg, because what laid the egg wasn't the chicken, but what came out of the egg was. So out of the two, yeah, without language, how do you describe science? Yes, there's another good one as well. It's the whole thing about maths. How maths is, you need maths to describe and quantify things, but if you don't have the language to go along with it, how does Ugg the caveman try and tell Zog the caveman that there's 5 saber-toothed tigers sitting outside without some form of language? Yeah, see, I'm approaching this from the sort of somebody who has, like I say, a very light background in astronomy and space sciences and things like that. So I'm more in this scenario, I would be more the Jeremy Renner type of character, but at the same time, I very much understand where Amy Adams' character is coming from. But yeah, out of the two, I would be asking the same questions. It's like, how does the FTL drive work? How do they handle rapid acceleration and stuff like that? The scientist part of my brain would be going ballistic. But again, as she said quite correctly, that's what I'm looking for. How can you communicate that information without knowing the language? And this is why I think this is such a great film, because it does get your brain going. Excuse me. Yeah, and you notice they're all doing like good protocols as well. They're making sure anybody who's going in there is getting a booster jabs. They're doing things right. Like, not perfectly, obviously, because it's a film, but they are doing it right. Like, logically, they're actually thinking. Mm. Oh, and there, of course, we have the stereotypical government douchebag, which, yeah, and and you've got like I one of the few films where the military are actually kind of sympathetic in this one. They're not portrayed as assholes. Yeah, that's the thing. In their language, the word "hello" might be a major insult. it's like it's like like what do you say about my mother? Yeah, there's also the there's also the psychological profile as well. Some people literally could not handle that. By bringing the scientist folks in a bit later, you don't have all the faffing around that you would get like when they first arrived. It's just, okay, this is what they're doing. We need you to go in and then chat with them. Okay? They're just standing there menacingly. Look at it. That's like it looks real, but it also looks fake. Now, I don't mean fake as in film fake, as in if you saw the IRL, your brain would be thinking, that looks fake. Because you've got no, reference point to it. Nothing to compare it to. See what I mean? It just looks like someone's just gone cut, cut, stick on the thing there. But it's supposed to look like that. His face is like, hell yeah. That's the expression of a guy who's having the best day of his life right there. It's like, I get to meet chuffing aliens. Hell yes. Now it's just not touching the ground. Yeah, you see that, and your brain just goes, "Yeah, that's not that should not be like that." And some people's minds literally cannot handle that sort of thing. Others, others get very excited. It all depends on the person. So they've been there enough to know that every 18 hours. I love when they have alien ships that actually feel alien. It's like to us, you can understand that, like, say, like the Enterprise or something that looks like a rocket because it's designed to go through an atmosphere. Like maybe wings, maybe lands. Where's that on here? You can't see it. God, the temptation just to pull your glove off and touch it is like. And one good thing is that thing did decide to drop, like it's anti-grav or whatever. Just yep. I, I would be giggling maniacally as well. But that's what I'm looking for. If that just decided to just anti-grav kick off and just drop, you're not going to feel it. You're going to be. So this film's going to keep making me grinning because of just the way they do certain things in this. Oh, look, grieving. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, there's a shift in the gravity plane. Yeah. Although, to be fair, that was a smart idea. Throwing up the glow stick like that. Yeah. This is when it's gonna get weird. Yep, the walls now become the floor. Yeah. That's how smooth that was. There was no sudden thing. It was just like 1 minute gravity for them is facing that way. Now it's facing that way. That's why I was giggling. I mean, granted, yeah, this would be freaking terrifying IRL. How smooth that transition was between that. That was so good. It's like jumping out of a plane for the first time. You could be with like the best parachutist in the world, but that first jump is always going to be a brown trousers moment. Yeah. First time stepping off an escalator. Yeah, it's that sort of, it's going to happen, but your brain is like, not. Do I do it now? 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 Oh, and there you go. Like I say, this film is done. I never expect a sci-fi film to be 100% accurate, because by very nature, it's a fiction film. But I very much appreciate and enjoy. See, so echoes of the whole Dune music there. But yeah, I very much appreciate when they try to keep it as not necessarily accurate, but as realistic within that framework. Yeah. Yeah, you think they were walking on the floor. They were not. Really freaking. So this is just to say, there's a reason why this is one of those sort of sci-fi films that I can't watch too often, because I know what's going to happen in it. But this is probably the third time I've watched this film. I will say that. So it's just simply because it is one of those. You know how some films, when you watch them a lot, kind of diminish how they impact. Yeah. Oh, he said the thing. He said the thing. So I'm just keeping an eye on the cat. Yeah. And also, with regards to sci-fi films, where they don't treat the audience as numpties. Not everything is explained in this. I really don't like when sci-fi films over-explain things. Like, you don't need to at all times. You can just say, it's like, what's that? That's the hyperdrive. How does it work? Very well. Like The Expanse. The Expanse is basically my benchmark for. Yeah, that's the expression of a guy who's trying not to poo himself. Right. I think the way people react to all these ones is so believable to me. Like, yeah, some are getting overloaded, others are just holy fudge. I legit think if I was in that same situation, I would be having the same reaction. There we go. Adrenaline, adrenaline overload. They're like, it's like the first time you've ever been on like a really intense roller coaster. You're like, that was brilliant, amazing. I'm gonna go and throw up now because all the adrenaline and stuff flooding through your system. Plus, also no disorientation from going up and down the anti-grav stuff. Mm-hmm. See what I was saying about different reactions? Humans. Humans being humans. Some good, some bad, some evil, some amazing. Yeah, yeah. But again, to be fair, I'm not defending the cults, but to be fair, if you had like a religious type thing upbringing, and then you see what from your point of view is the end times. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I get an idea of why. Yeah. And some people handle stress differently. And again, fair play to the military guy. He's like, okay, you're the expert. I just want to make sure that was nothing untoward. Bring it along. As he said, she's in charge of this operation, sort of thing. He's in charge of protecting them. And I freaking love when they actually acknowledge that. It's like, yeah, we brought you here for a reason. You're the smart ones. You do what you do your job, and hopefully we won't have to do ours. No problem with that. Oh, something's happening. Like, we can see it like from her point of view. It's a nice little touch. So, did you just insult them? Oh yeah, something's happening. Yeah, that is a freaking big deal. Yeah, like the fact that they recognise they don't understand it, but they recognise that it's a language. What it says, they ain't got a freaking clue. But like, when they started doing that in the cinema, my expression was just like, "Oh, this is important." Mm-hmm. Okay. This is amazing. I know what she's referencing. One, there is a reference to this story that Amy Adams has said there in one my. There we go. Yeah, in one of the Discworld books, there is a forest known as Scund, which in the local language translates to "your finger, you fool." Based on that same story, the whole "what's that? What's your finger, you fool?" There's about like 5 or 6 little jokes like that in there. So every time I've heard that story, and as I said correctly, it is just a story, but it's so good. Because algebra's language. Yeah, like I say, the fact that the local military, so to speak, are sympathetic. Excuse me, sorry, I apologise. Yeah, Yeah, she's right. Like I say, I very much appreciate that he is sympathetic, but obviously he has his job, they have theirs. And in an ideal world, she does her job, he doesn't need to do his. That's the way I like military being portrayed. They do it not because they want to, but because it's like, look, we're here in case you succeed. I love Stargate. Hi, I'm Jeff. This is Dave. I mean, do they have the concept of names? Bindi Baji and Takadao. Yep. Oh, that's a Red Dwarf reference. The Vindaloo Empire. Bindi Baji. Seriously, great episode. Red Dwarf. Also, her taking off her stuff had a logical reason behind it. May not agree with it, but there's a logical reason behind it. I'm looking at you, Prometheus and Covenant. Decent sci-fi films, but dear God, were the scientists in that idiots. Run sideways! Imagine that. One of the aliens just gone, holy crap, you've just taken one of the top layers of her skin off. That's metal. But that, again, that's the point that she's trying to sort of get across, is that how they would perceive that. Are they perceiving the suit? Are they perceiving her? Can they tell the difference between somebody wearing a suit and not wearing a suit? Do they know what the suit's purpose serves? And they're mimicking. And there's definitely some intelligence there. There's no doubt about it. But as she's trying to find out, is it sentient or is it sapient? Oh, there is a logic as well behind those symbols. Like, they didn't just put random splodges on there. There is a logic and a pattern to them. I mean, it's pretty obvious what they're based on in terms of visualization. They're based on cephalopods, octopus, squids, all that jazz. I mean, not exactly, because I'm pretty sure there's no octopus with, those at the end of their arms. But you can see the vibe they're going for. Oh yeah, those are two different. Yeah, those are two different circles. Yes. See, this is why I've been no good at first contact, because I would be saying, okay, we have Boblin the Goblin over there and over there. I've been no good in a first contact situation because I'd just be giggling too much as well. Or, like was put in chat, Bindi Baji and Taka Dal. And now want to carry. Yeah, it would either be like one really long, complicated name, like Batang, 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 Kev. Or it would just be something really, immature. Like, we have the aliens. Bend over and Roger the cabin boy. I should never be allowed to name things. Which is nice. Yep, they're taking all the proper precautions. Yep, they're doing all the right things. Oh yes, the military phones that are always monitored. People panicking, separate from their loved ones. Yeah, those there's a proper name for those things. I can't remember what they call it. I think they're called like logorams or something like that. But there is a logic behind them. They're not just someone's just gone. So simple as well. I mean, don't. There we go, heptapods. Yeah, man. Think, logic, science. It's just there. So, mm. Perhaps because they know that you can't talk to them yet. Yeah. It's like, who's teaching who? Do you know what I mean? There is a logic and a science behind it because they had to do it to explain this, otherwise it wouldn't have made sense. Everyone's what? There we go. That's the term. I couldn't remember the logogram. It, well, yeah, they're not messing around. This is like, well, from my point of view, this is like taking place over a few days. This is taking place over weeks, if not months. It just feels like it's quick because people. Oh, hello, cat. See, what did I say earlier about language and maths? Yeah. So it's like, yeah. So, sciences overlap a lot more than scientists care to. What's the word? There's a lot of overlap between the different fields of scientists that a lot of people would not be happy to acknowledge. Smooth. Yep. Day 25. So almost a month. Oh, those type of people. Conspiracy theorist types. Oh, I really don't like those type of people. Yes. those types. Yeah. Okay, so let's just first say these aliens have technology that allows them to travel from, I don't know, an indeterminate distance away to get to Earth. Okay, they've got ships that have anti-gravity. They can manipulate it like we can manipulate iron and steel. They are able to create habitable areas within their ship, rearrange things, and there's 12 of them. You can't even slightly damage them. And they think a shot across the bows is going to help. It's like going up to Superman and calling, making the V gesture. I mean, Superman wouldn't do anything, but he would. He would be disappointed, and that would hurt. Damn. He's sympathetic. I like it when they actually acknowledge that. Look, you're the expert. We brought you here for a reason. I mean, that's freaking rough. The silence as well. That's just like, again, I can remember watching this in the cinema, and that when that scene came up, and people were just quiet. There wasn't anyone laughing, making noise. They were just quiet. That was such a big lore thing happened there, and people didn't realise. Because if you starting to dream in another language, that's like it's getting lodged in there. So they've been there for like the military folks for what? Yeah, yeah, she's a linguist, but yeah. Or you're Jeremy Clarkson. Yeah, that's the thing. We're seeing this from a country that has English speaking. There's another logic to it as well. Why would they land in different places around the world? Different languages. Each one would maybe approaching it from a different point of view. Like she's approaching it from a very linguistically Western point of view. The Chinese dude's doing it like more from like a game of like say mahjong. Maybe a say another country would be doing it more like traditional tribal um, like First Nation stuff or things like that. You don't know. But if each of them's having a slightly different approach, something's going to click. Yeah. Just depends if they get one of those things wrong, and again they just turn around and say, "Oi, Jeff, she just said you got small arms. Rude." That's what you don't know. But again, same sort of logic from their point of view. They could accidentally create a symbol if they're not careful that actually on Earth means something very, very bad. Languages, man, it's wild. Look at the regions we have on this planet. How was it? There's like also like there's like Mandarin, there's Hindi, and I'm just saying random ones I think of. English, obviously, the Romance languages, things like that, all have different structures. Hmm. And yeah, unfortunately, he's right. I mean, I mean, it's not like he's like turning around going, "I think this is really going to happen." Yeah. Hmm. What's going down? What's something's happening? Okay. So that's three sites off the grid. Yeah. Now, there is also a bit in if you've ever seen the another excellent sci-fi show called Babylon 5. Earth gets into a war. And this is not really a spoiler. This is discussed. Um, Earth gets into a war with the Minbari, who are like an advanced race, technologically 1,000 years ahead of humans. Because when the first ship of the Minbari turned up, their traditional greeting is to arrive with their gun ports open and charged. Because it's like, hello, we have weapons, but we're not going to use them. We would like to have chats with you. Would you like to talk? Okay, that's the Minbari way of thinking. To a human, however, when a dirty great big starship turns up on your doorstep with gun ports open and fully charged weapons, what do you think that message comes across as? It's the same logic. So, of course, the poop interacts with the air circulation device, and Earth almost gets annihilated. All because of a mistake. Basically, a translation error. Hmm. Hmm. Good way of doing the languages. I mean, it may be complete nonsense, but there's a logic to it, so I'll give them that. Oh, that's new. They're actually like tap tap tap. Almost like they're trying to point it out to them, and like going, "Wait, human, no, no, behind." For fuck's sake, they don't understand. Behind you. Bam. Yeah, it's like, what the flip? That's like, oh, that hum in the background. Yeah, they just saved their lives. No, I like to think like was it Abbott or whatever was just going. It's, seriously, right? Look, this is gonna sting, but it's for your own good. Boom. Oh, they care about each other. Again, this is his jam. This is what he is here for. So, right. Yeah, we're moving so you can't do that shit again. Right. I mean, it's gonna take us ages to clean up that mess inside the chamber. They can certainly try. Assuming our weapons can even affect them. I mean, I understand the logic that they had to try and do something, but there's got to be a part of you where you're thinking, this may not even scratch them. Yeah, it's like the same word over and over again. Or I'll say word. Such a word can. So I'm just thinking about if I go. This is a film where I will just go quiet every so often because I'm thinking about certain things. Oh yeah, there's a smoke. Yeah, this is a film that makes you think. That's his expression was just like, yeah, I agree, he's a dick, but we got to work together. Damn. Hey, what's that? That's a valid question. Also, I've just realised that from a filming point of view, having one of the things being like in an empty field in Montana is actually going to be a very good idea because you don't have to worry about, ridiculous amount of sightseers and people getting in the way and accidentally hurt. Basically, from a filming POV, I understand why they did it. Also, it looks freaking cool. Your chariot awaits. Yeah, he knows what's going on. He ain't stupid. That's not nerve-wracking at all. Yeah. So, hmm. What do you think that is? What just happened to her? God, I've just seen what the time is. This has gone so quick. That's how I know I'm interested because the ADHD isn't like going all over the place. I'm like, film. I mean, you're breathing. Probably doesn't smell nice, but you're breathing. That would be terrifying. I won't lie. It's one thing when there's like a panel between them, but being in their side of the chamber, yeah, that's a change of underwear job right there. Right. No, it's like, no, no, no. I'm Abbott. That's oh yeah, she doesn't have her righty thingy. May have just figured out what's happened to the other one. Why there's only one of them here now. And why she was apologising. I'll admit, didn't click on it. Didn't click for me the first time I saw this film. I love the way their language looks. I mean, because it's just so different to anything we have on this planet. They don't. That's the thing. They don't know the future. Hmm. That was important. This child she's been seeing since the beginning of the film, and she doesn't know who they are. Now she's getting it. That's got to be one serious mind fudge. I'm trying to think of what that. It reminds me of a blood cell. Like, if you ever see that sort of picture of a like a red blood cell, sort of like side on, and it has that weird sort of concaveness to it, sort of thing. Ooh, this film is heartbreaking once you figure it out, which you probably have already figured out by now. Oh, there's this. Yeah, this is where I figured out what the film was doing. And I think a few other people did in the cinema when I was watching this because I swear I heard someone crying. Like, not in a sort of weeping way, but in a sort of like. Tell me how it looks like a blood cell. That is really good SFX to make that thing look real whilst the helicopter's flying. Sweet. You cut away from you, not towards you. Yeah, cut away from yourself and towards Trot. Yes. Gold star for remembering that. It will take far too long to explain that joke. And this is why I love this film. It's like, when she said that line, my brain just went, alright, cool, Nif. Yeah. It's like the second neuron woke up at that point. I need to check something. It is about this film, but it's not about the content of this film. It's about the awards this film won. Wow. It won Best Sound Editing and was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Sound Mixing. Yep, screw it. You know what? I'm just going to post it in chat. It'd be easier. You know what I was saying earlier about paradoxes? How they can be resolved when you have the right information. And anybody who knows me knows I very much enjoy time travel films. But this is not a time travel film. Let's just say that. No, I'll wait. I'll wait. Hmm. She, Amy Adams really freaking should have got an award for this film. And that's when humanity collectively unclenches. Like, yeah, why would they send it to a really odd spot in Iceland where there's like two people and a goat living? You can see where Villeneuve got the idea for the highliners from Dune from. Yeah, there's a reason why they don't go faster than light. Because they're not travelling faster than light. That's a form of space folding. You don't have to worry about speed of light then. Such a beautiful film in multiple ways. Yeah, it's one hell of a burden, and you can understand that's horrible when you realise what it is. But at the same time, like I said, this is one of the few films that has actually got me emotional at the beginning because I know where it ends. Which is ironic if you think about it, considering they're not the topic of this film. Like I said, it rewards you watching it a second time. For just that reason, you feel more connected to the character because you go on the same journey she is. Yep. That is just like, oh, that is such a horrible thing to be aware of. Like, because you know it's gonna absolutely destroy him. But if you don't get your daughter. Yeah, it's just like, when it's like, honestly, the book that this is based on is decent, but I think having it in visual, the way it was done here, far superior. Like, the book was an 8. This is a 9.5. Because she knows if she doesn't have her kid, in a way, one, she doesn't have a daughter, doesn't have a husband, doesn't have, all the joy that comes from it. And now, a few people have said that, oh, that was a bit forward of him, but yeah, he was getting affected by the language as well. Not to the same level that she was, obviously, because she was deep in that stuff, but even he said no, he was starting to get dreams and thoughts and things like that. It was literally rewiring his brain. So maybe not on a conscious level, but to the point where he was starting to pick up on a few things, but obviously not to the same level that she does, because she was getting like, what's the way to describe it? A lot of people made the mistake, and myself included slightly, of thinking she was seeing the future. She was not seeing the future. She was remembering it. Which is a big, big distinction between the two. Is you think, oh, it's, remembering the future is exactly the same as seeing it. No, it isn't. And here's how I can give you an example. Think back to your childhood. An important memory. can be anything, you know, like a Christmas or, you know, your birthday, you know, or oh no, let's keep it in the same time scale like she had. Like we remember the interaction with the Chinese general. Think back to something that happened 2 years ago. How much of that can you remember? Obviously, the human brain doesn't remember absolutely everything unless they focus on it and concentrate and play back those memories again and again. Now, if she knows that that's going to be important, she will keep playing it back in her head. So her past self can remember it happening. Like I say, for them, the heptapods, their brains don't work the same way. Now, here's an interesting little tidbit. I don't know if it was put up in the film or not. But this is a little bit of a spoiler. A little bit of a spoiler. I think it may have been in the director's cut or something like that, if there is one. But it turns out why the heptapods gave us this language. And that's in the future, because humanity have become united, as for the most part. I mean, we're not. We still have, like, you know, we still have what do you call it? Words, Chris. Yeah. Issues. We still have family issues amongst people on the planet. It's not a perfect union, but it's, for the most part, you could say that humanity is united, generally speaking. At some point in the distant, what we would call the distant future, we travel out to the stars and we, from our point of view, meet the heptapods for the first time. Officially, so to speak. And because they have a consciousness, a language, a brain that doesn't see time in the same way we do, they realise that, humans, wait a minute, didn't we, about 1,000, 2,000, whatever years ago? And it turns out that in the far future, this is if what I read was correct, and I think it was, humans, because they have become united and yet still have that warlike edge or something like that, we help the heptapods. And the reason why we help the heptapods is because they gave us, in what we would call our past, the language that stopped us from basically annihilating each other. Paradox, self-rooting paradox. Which is why this is kind of a time travel movie, but it isn't. It's one of the few ways you can resolve the whole, but, you know, I mean, granted, it's a little bit of a stretch, but it's a sci-fi film. But because you've not had, what's the word? You know, you notice that sort of in the film as well, the whole thing about free will and predestination. You notice how when she was talking to her daughter in the future, in the original line, shall we say, she couldn't remember what it was. But then in what we would call the past, what's his name turned around and said, you know, it's a zero-sum game. And then she was like, boom, instantly changed. Now, the way it was presented, when you first see it, you think, oh, she's just suddenly remembering it. No, she wasn't. And this is why I freaking love this film and I am tempted to classify this as a time travel film. But strictly speaking, it is not. But it kind of is. And yeah, it was one. I know. Hello. Yeah, hello. You'll be very careful if you get on my lap. I'm wearing my shorts. Okay, thank you. And I have a cat butt in the way. I know. Yeah, sorry, I'm attending to the cat. She's been very good today, so I must give her attention. Okay. All right. So I got distracted by the cat. But yes. Now there was a show many years ago which I absolutely loved called Quantum Leap, and it was 90s sci-fi, but it had a very interesting concept around how time travel in that universe would work. You would not physically travel in time, you would do it mentally. So you would only hypothetically be able to travel along your own lifetime. So you could go back into your past, or not into the future though, you could only go into the past from your perspective. But there was obviously, you know, sci-fi being sci-fi, things occurred, and it went wibbly, and he started not arriving where he should, and things like that. And it's one of the few shows I almost rage quitted because of the ending. I loved Quantum Leap as a show. It started off really good. There was a few ropey episodes, I can't deny that. There was a few iffy episodes, in that sort of 90s way. But generally speaking, it was a thoroughly interesting sci-fi show and got really good towards the end. And then we had the last episode. Now, I've mentioned before that when I was a kid, I generally was a polite kid. And there was only a few times I have sworn in front of my parents. The first was when, both of the sci-fi shows. The first was with Best of Both Worlds. The first two-parter I've ever watched on like a proper live show. It happened, the whole thing was the cutest, and I just was like, the F word, of the strong F word. I quite rightly got told off. Now, I've mentioned before in the past that my mum is who got me into sci-fi. And she definitely indulged my sci-fi interest because quite often, if I liked it, she might like it as well. Not all the time, but enough that it's like, okay, what's Chris watching today? I'll have a look. Is that interesting to me? It is not. But Quantum Leap was one of them because it dealt with things that happened in her lifetime, ironically, and she would watch it sort of like the whole nostalgia fest, but I watched it because of the time travel stuff. It was great. And when we got to the end episode, that was one of the few other times I said the F word in front of them. And I thought, I had a flashback and was just like, oh, sorry, Mum. And she's like, no, that's understandable. Yeah. Like, you said it, but I was thinking it. It's like, fair enough. So, very good show, but be warned that that last scene in Quantum Leap will make you swear. Poor Scott Bakula. One of the reasons why I will not have a bad word said against him. Decent as actor, but there's a couple of the shows he's on end in ways that make the fans mad. But to bring it back to this film, like I say, that is how they got around the whole time travel and free will paradox, was because it was a memory, you were not remembering it exactly. So even like the details would be like, oh, I go to the party. I know I speak to the general. That is all you're concentrating on. You still got free will. It doesn't care. You're not locked into it. You're just locked into that memory. Maybe. Did that happen exactly how you remember it? Not really, because human memories are very fallible. You may remember the main gist of it. You probably could remember exacting details like a phrase if you kept repeating it to yourself and repeating it to yourself and repeating it to yourself and repeat. You do that enough times, it's like, yeah, you reinforce those memory links in the brain. And that's essentially what she did. So certain key memories became stronger because she remembered them. Although, we do start getting into more sort of, but why does she remember in the first place, and paradox loops, but we're not going to worry too much about that because I'm getting hot and sweaty. And this is one of those few films whenever I've watched it, like I say, this is the third time I've watched it. The first time was in the cinema, second time was on DVD. I think it's up there on my shelf. I have it on DVD, obviously the book as well, and this is the third time, and each time I've just had to have one of those sort of moments, what do they call it, decompress, where you sort of metaphorically just kind of all sit there going, type moments. So I'm going to go and sort of end things for tonight. It's looking likely like I will be playing, or at least giving a go with Blood Bowl next week. Problem is, there's 3 versions that I've got, and I'm not entirely sure which version is the best one, because I know there was it's not Blood Bowl 3, it's Blood Bowl 2, I think, which is generally regarded as the one with the superior out of all of them, with the biggest campaign, because obviously it's reasonably cheap and stuff now. But I don't know exactly which one it is. I'll have to do a little bit of research into it. So it is looking very likely I will be playing Blood Bowl next week, but I'm not too sure which version. And as I have learned in the past, it all depends on if it works with streaming software, because some games I have learned over the years do not get on with streaming software at all, unfortunately. So yeah, fingers crossed it'll be okay, but I will probably do maybe like a sort of what they call it, like a bandwidth test stream. It's not a perfect thing, but it does give me a rough idea if there's going to be any issues. But we'll find out on Tuesday. But for now, I am going to go and, like I say, mentally decompress for a bit after that, and I will be back next week. I hope everybody has a good weekend. Bye bye.